This will be either a 15-minute lesson or a 5-minute devotional. Well, my lesson tonight is titled, The Right Crowd. Around the world are churches of Christ that are some faithful, others are not. The Heritage Church of Christ in Fort Worth said that they would make their services better for people of different faith so that it would be easier for them to worship by adding instruments to their worship. What crowd do you think they are following? When Paul was first introduced in the Bible, we see that he was standing by, holding the garments of the people stoning Stephen, Acts 7:58. And they cast Stephen out of the city and stoned him, and the witnesses laid down their clothes at the feet of a young man named Saul. During this time, Saul was following the wrong crowd, the people who hated the church, or the Pharisees. He was persecuting the church, the right crowd. Acts 8 and verse 3. Acts 8 and verse 3. As for Saul, he made havoc of the church, entering every house and dragging off men and women, committing them to prison. I have 4 topics here that they'll be pretty short, but Saul becoming Paul. First topic. Saul was going to the synagogue to carry everyone away that was a Christian to Jerusalem. The wrong crowd that he was following were the high priests, though they thought they were doing right. Acts 9, verse 1. Saul even thought he was doing right. Then Saul, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord, went to the high priest and asked letters from him to the synagogue of Damascus, so that if he found any who were of the way, whether men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. As Saul goes to Damascus, the Lord comes to him in a bright light, saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Acts 9 and verse 4 through 9. Acts 9, 4 through 9. Then he fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And he said, Who are you, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. It is hard for you to kick against the goads. So he, trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what do you want me to do? Then the Lord said to him, Arise and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do. And the men who journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice, but seeing no one. Then Saul rose from the ground, and when his eyes were opened, he saw no one. But they led him by the hand and brought him into Damascus. And he was there 3 days without sight, and neither ate nor drank. Before Ananias went to Saul, Saul was fasting because he knew he was in the wrong now that the Lord had prepared to him, and how urgent it was for his soul. He had eaten nothing for 3 days or drank anything. When he was baptized by Ananias, he ate, drank, and immediately started preaching the word in the synagogues. You see his change from Saul to Paul. Acts 9, 17 through 22. My second topic. The Old Testament man whom God blessed, Job. In the beginning of Job, we see that Job is a man blessed by God. He was very wealthy. He had 7 sons, 3 daughters, 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 female donkeys, and a very large household, in Job 1, 1 through 3. But look at verse 1. He was blameless and upright, and one who feared God and shunned evil. But then, disaster. We know that Satan goes to God, and God says to Satan that there is none like Job. Satan wants Job to sin, so God sends disaster to Job's household. Everything that Job had is now gone. But what does he do? Job 1, 20 through 22. Then Job arose, tore his clothes, and shaved his head, And he fell to the ground and worshipped. And he said, Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return there. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this Job did not sin, nor charge God with wrong. He stood fast. Cursed by Satan. Job 2, 7 through 8. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord, and struck Job with painful boils from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. And he took for himself a potsherd, with which to scrape himself with, while he sat in the midst of the ashes. Job 2, 9 through 10. Even his wife thought he did something wrong, so she wanted him to curse God. Job's wife came to him and said, Do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die. It's sad that even his own wife wanted him to sin. Yet, says he to her, You speak as one of the foolish women speaks. Shall we indeed accept good from God, and shall we not accept adversity? In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. He held fast. In Genesis 5, 21 through 24, Enoch. Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah. After he begot Methuselah, Enoch walked with God 300 years and had sons and daughters. So all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. There is only 2 accounts in the Bible where men are taken by God because of their faithfulness: Enoch and Elijah. In 1 Samuel 9 through 31, Saul, a man who started out good, but then went downhill. Saul was a humble man at first, but when he started doing things that the Lord told him not to do, then he started his way down the one-way path. When he heard that the Lord would give the throne to another man who was better than him, 1 Samuel 15, 17 through 35. First Samuel 15, 17 through 35. So Samuel said, When you were little in your own eyes, were you not head of the tribes of Israel? And did not the Lord anoint you king over Israel? Now the Lord sent you on a mission and said, Go and utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are consumed. Why then did you not obey the voice of the Lord? Why did you swoop down on the spoil and do evil in the sight of the Lord? And Saul said to Samuel, But I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and gone on a mission on which the Lord sent me, and brought back Agag, king of Amalek. I have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. If he brought back Agag, he did not utterly destroy the Amalekites. He did not do what the Lord commanded. But listen to what Saul says. But the people took of the plunder sheep and oxen, the best of the things which should have been utterly destroyed, to sacrifice to the Lord your God in Gilgal. He's blaming the people for his own doing, and their doing in process as well. So Samuel said, Has the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than to sacrifice, and to heed than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as a sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is an iniquity and idolatry, is as iniquity and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has also rejected you from being king. Then Saul said to Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of the Lord and your words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. brings to mind, if Saul really feared the Lord, he would have done everything the Lord had told him to. But instead, he was yet a man, so he did as the people wanted. Now therefore, please pardon my sin, and return with me, that I may worship the Lord. But Samuel said to Saul, I will not return with you, for you have rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord has rejected you from being king over Israel. And as Samuel turned around to go away, Saul seized the edge of his robe, and it tore. So Samuel said to him, The Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today, and has given it to a neighbor of yours, who is better than you. And also the strength of Israel will not lie, nor relent, for he is not a man that he should relent. Then he said, I have sinned, yet honor me now, please, before the elders of my people, and before Israel, and return with me, that I may worship the Lord your God. So Samuel turned back after Saul, and Saul worshipped the Lord. Then Samuel said, Bring Agag, king of the Amalekites, here to me. So Agag came to him cautiously, and Agag said, Surely the bitterness of death is past. But Samuel said, As your sword has made women childless, so shall your mother be childless among women. And Samuel hacked Agag in pieces before the Lord in Gilgal. Then Samuel went to Ramah, and Saul went up to his house at Gibeah of Saul. And Samuel went no more to see Saul until the day of his death. Nevertheless, Samuel mourned for Saul, and the Lord regretted that he had made Saul king over Israel. We see that Saul has finally fallen away from the Lord, and that his kingdom is torn away. David, a man God promised to give the throne to. 1 Samuel 16, 1 through 14. As we see here, the Lord says to Samuel And the Lord said to Samuel, How long will you mourn for Saul, seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel? Fill your horn with oil, and go. I am sending you to Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I have provided myself a king among his sons. And Samuel said, How can I go? If Saul hears it, he will kill me. But the Lord said, Take a heifer with you, and say, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Then invite Jesse to sacrifice, and I will show you what you shall do. You shall anoint for me the one I name to you. So Samuel did what the Lord said, and went to Bethlehem, and the elders of the town trembled at his coming, and said, Do you come peacefully? And he said, Peaceably. I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Sanctify yourselves, and come with me to the sacrifice. Then he consecrated Jesse and his sons, and invited them to the sacrifice. So it was when they came that he looked at Eliab, and said, Surely the Lord's anointed is before him. But the Lord said to Samuel, Do not look at his outward appearance, or at his physical stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord does not see as man sees. For man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. You see that Samuel first thought when he looked at him that surely this one was the Lord's anointed, because he was looking at his physical stature. He could have been a well-looking, big man, pretty tall man, pretty well fit, but he did not test him to see if he was a righteous man. So Jesse called Abinadab and made him pass before Samuel. And he said, Neither has the Lord chosen this one. Then Jesse made Shammah pass by, and he said, Neither has the Lord chosen this. Thus Jesse made 7 of his sons pass before Samuel. And Samuel said to Jesse, The Lord has not chosen these. And Samuel said to Jesse, Are all the young men here? Then he said, There remains yet the youngest, and there he is, keeping the sheep. And Samuel said to him, Send and bring him, for he will not sit down till he comes here. For we will not sit down till he comes here. So he sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy and bright eyes and good looking. For the Lord said, Arise, anoint him, for this is the one. Then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brothers. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward. So Samuel arose and went to Ramah. You see, the Lord has finally chosen the king after Saul. But the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and a distressing spirit from the Lord troubled him. You see that the spirit that the Lord put upon Saul was now taken away, and a distressing spirit is now upon him. In modern texts, what happens when we have a member of the church who walks disorderly? What do we do? If a person is willing to turn back to God, then we must have them back. But if they don't wish to return, then they are committing spiritual suicide. Then we must withdraw from them. 2 Thessalonians 3 and verse 6. But we command you, brethren, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that you withdraw from every brother who walks disorderly, and not according to the traditions which he received from us. Those who walk rightly, or in the right crowd, will have blessings. The ultimate blessing that we must look forward to, if we are faithful, is the blessing of the kingdom of heaven. No one can get to the Father without Jesus Christ. John 14, verse 6, Acts 4 and verse 12. What good Christian men can we look up to today, who are of past and of the present? I believe that Johnny Ramsey, a man who died about 4 years ago, was probably my inspiration. He was known as a walking Bible. And one of these days, hopefully, I will be able to become a walking Bible just like he was. Paul was one of the greatest, he was the greatest apostle that ever lived. And we should strive to be like the great men. Are you with the right crowd? If not, we have water available for those who are not Christians here today. And if you are a Christian and are not faithful to God, we ask that you come now as together we stand and we sing.